Okay, welcome everyone to the Quadrant Community Call. The date is June 4th, 2024. Got a few line items on the agenda today, starting with Didi. So, Didi, I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, so someone pushed me under the bus,
Yeah, me.
apparently, because that wasn't me. I put it on the backlog, but I could do like a demo, and it's not going to be quite interesting, like super interesting, but it's going to be something. So let me just prepare. And let me.
So while I pushed you under the bus, you the one that said that you would do this today. So
Yeah.
I was just merely the messenger.
Okay, let's see. Let me put as a presenter mode and entire screen here. So you might see my screen. I'm not sure if you're like familiar with Helm charts, since it's in brief, in a few words, it's like kind of like another way to distribute software operators in general. And it's a bit probably one of the most popular ways of packaging operators other than the operator hub. They have an artifacts hub, but they give you the chance to maintain your own repo. So ideally, what we're going to start doing is just keeping our repository of Helm charts for our operators, Limitador, Authorino, Kuadrant, DNS, and whatever other new one we want to maintain. And we're going to publish it in our website. So I'm going to show you probably here in Quadrant IO Helm charts. We're going to have like a list of the versions of the Helm charts that we are maintaining, and we are like publishing just to in every release. We're going to keep that index up to date. And this is, of course, at the moment is hidden, even though it's actually, if you go to that URL, it kind of, you're going to have that information available, and which is a way to have exposed the charts that we have and the documentation for those. One of the differences between OLM and Helm charts is like OLM takes care of the upgrade path for you. So you just subscribe to a channel, and then whenever you have like a new version of that operator, it upgrades itself. If there is like no, if the upgrade path is like fluent in terms of OLM can take care of it. If there has like some other dependencies that they are for the application, well, then good luck. But otherwise, it takes care of everything for you. On the contrary, on Helm, you need to post a documentation in the Helm charts how you're going to update it. People need to update that chart for you. So what I'm going to do in this demo is first, this is how it looks like at the moment. It doesn't match the look and feel of our Quadrant IO site, but more of the Helm charts documentation sites, or the indexes of the repositories, Istio, Prometheus, or many others, they have like a similar, which they tell you the URL for the repo, and then the way how you should update or install those charts, and the dependencies that they need to take care into account. In our releases of, for example, the Limitador operator, ideally, in our release process, we're going to be posting also the Helm chart, which is going to be appearing in the assets section of every release. And then we're going to be indexing these charts in a new repo, which is going to be the Helm charts one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a kind cluster. I'm going to open here canines just to take a look. Oh, sorry. Let me erase this one. And I'm just going to follow the instructions that they are published in our site. So first, I'm going to add the Kuadrant repo. Since I already had it, of course, it says skipping, then I'm going to update the repo. And in our case, we want to create a namespace. This Kuadrant system is okay. And then this is a way that you install a chart, which it takes limited operator as the name of the chart that you want to install, and then the repo and in this case the chart, which is the limited operator, and then on the namespace. You can check for example, the charts that we have published in our repository with the Helm Clive, and this because of I'm just doing some testing. We only have limited operator with the version 090, which is the latest that we released a couple of last week. So I'm going to install this. And here the information that gives you is when it was last deployed, and when the status and the name, and well, this is obviously not a lot of information at the time being. This is actually very simple. But if you update the path and everything, it should show you let me see. Here, for example, install the limited operator from B090. If you want to uninstall that one, and then that one is going, and you can now probably it's going to be more obvious when I install it again. What I wanted to show you was the upgrade path, but obviously I don't have it there yet. But more or less, this is how someone that wants to install operators with Helm pretty much works. So I don't have anything else to show you at the time being, but a few comments on this is that I'm using Customize to create the manifests in order to not reinvent the wheel and to just keep the tooling the same. So when I'm creating the manifests, and which are the same manifest for Helm, I'm just using Customize. For example, in Limitador, when I'm building those manifests, basically I'm using Customize for everything and updating the YAML files corresponding to the Helm chart. I created also a Customize for the chart itself, for just the templates as well. So yeah, Guy.
Sorry, Didi, I don't want to throw you even further under the bus, but
I'm already dead, so it's okay. Go ahead.
do you happen to have an example of how one would customize something in the installation from the Helm command, such as if we want to set something different in the limited OCR?
Yes, at the moment, I can't show you an example, but usually you can pass like certain in the command line in the CLI with Helm, you can pass like either like a values YAML, or what you can do is pass inline certain values that they're going to be replacing the templating of Helm chart. And of course, at this moment, the manifest is just one big manifest that it is not telling you much, because it's the same manifest that we are using for the OLM as well. But ideally, what we wanted to do is make every single whatever we think is valuable to configure, just to customize it better, to make it available as a values YAML, so people can use a command line to replace those values of those templates, and they're going to be reflected in the chart that they are installing.
Nice, thanks. It will be interesting to see how this progress to support things such as enabling, disabling TLS in Authorino, right? There are a bunch of a few fields that you need to set, this kind of stuff. But interesting stuff. Thanks, Didi.
Agus?
Yeah. Did you? It was related to the question from Guy. Did you ask about the limitador CR or Authorino CR? Because if that was your question, I think it's not related to this, because this is about deploying the operator. Then CRs are created.
Yeah, but
Sorry?
those are manifests, and
So,
those
yeah,
manifests
it's all.
can also be templated, if I can use a word, just to put in the same way like Go templating works, to replacing values. And those values are going to be reflected in a CR that is going to be part of the Helm chart, and that you can customize as well.
In a CR.
Sorry, I get your point, Deguski, and I think you're right. Sorry,
I got confused.
It wasn't a good example.
CR. What's CR?
Yeah,
there's nothing to do with custom resources here.
Yeah, maybe a better example would be customizing things in the operator itself, right? For example, the default limitador image that you want.
Exactly. Things like that. Then the deployment of limitador or Authorino, it's the next step. Nothing to do with deploying the operator.
Yeah, like also, of course, in this example, I'm matching 100% the operator to the Helm chart, but it doesn't need to be that way. We could create a chart that is going to have like certain configuration and some other probably Kubernetes objects or some other services that they are packed inside that Helm chart. And we can set like a specific configuration just to work with it. For example, I think like probably Philip, you can explain a bit, or Craig, not sure if he's on the call, that you guys are packaging in a specific way of installing Kuadrant, with having many other services that we don't provide in the installation with OLM, for example. So in this case, here we can, of course, extend not only to be the limitador operator or Authorino operator or Kuadrant operator, but having like more services and more configuration for those services.
Yeah, just to add my 2 cents, we are trying to use these Helm charts, which did Didi, and make them as a dependencies for another Helm chart, in which the actual limitador Authorino, or not these, but the actual Kuadrant object, Kuadrant CR would be created, and basically to populate the whole testing environment with Kuadrant and some of our backends, RHSSO, etc. So these Helm charts can be combined into Eber Helm charts. So that's the thing we are trying to use, and we are also experimenting with not reusing charts Didi made, but to try to use OLM or catalog for deploying Kuadrant. And so the chart would create just Kuadrant CR and some minor stuff we use for testing, like backends.
Right. Of course, like this approach is like a bit different in a way that we are like mimicking as an alternative to install the operator as a chart instead of like instead of like OLM, for example, or if you go and find also just exposed that we have like all the ways methods of installation of our operators, not only operator hub, but eventually this is going to be published in Artifact Hub, and in terms of community probably is an interesting way that same installation, because here in Helm charts you have like two versions per package. One is like the version of a chart and one is the version of the application. In the case I'm building here, is like a match. It's going to be every release of our operators are going to have like the same version of that chart in particular. That doesn't mean that in the future we want to provide solutions packaged inside charts, that those solutions are going to be including other services or particular configurations of quadrants already packaged just with Authorino Limitador and a single cluster quadrant, and it's already easy to provide with minor configuration, and people can install it, for example, just top of my head here. Any other questions? All right, I stop presenting.
Thanks, Didi. Up next, then we have Philip, nightly testing of Upstream Alpha.
Okay, so let me share my screen, and we wanted to present our approach we use for testing of nightly or alpha builds of Kuadrant each day by our test suite. Just a quick recap: our test suite is distributed as a image. This image is built on each push to the main branch and is published on Quay into the unstable tag. So this is used for the alpha testing. So this exists for a long time, but the new thing we did it recently was that we created Tecton pipelines to automatically run the tests each day to test Kuadrant, to test unreleased versions of Kuadrant, and also to verify the health of the test suite itself. Yeah, so like the pipeline itself is just a really thin Tecton pipeline, and basically it's just calling directly using the test suite image, and calls one command inside. Another thing that this pipeline is able to do, which has really big is a really good advantage, is that the test results, as they are emitted from the test suite run, are uploaded to the record portal, which is a UI for displaying and reviewing test results. I'll show it in a moment. And basically, as you may know, our test suite is able to run in multiple modes. One of these is Kuadrant mode, which basically tests the quadrant as the whole. And the second option is to run in Authorino standalone mode, which doesn't use Kuadrant, but tests Authorino as a standalone product using auth configs instead of auth policies. So each night, our quadrant on our cluster is updated to the latest version from main branch, and it's installed, and then we run 2 runs of our test suite, one in configuration which tests Quadrant, and one in configuration which tests Authorino standalone. And we push our test results into the report portal. I create the results are visualized using dashboards. As you can see, we have 2 dashboards, Authorino Nightlist and Quadrant Nightlist. The dashboard itself can look like this, or at this time looks like this. On the left, you can see latest nightly run. You can see that all of our tests passed. It's 167 tests as of now. And on the right side, you can see the trend of bugs, either in test suite or in a product. So yeah, you can see that there are some small rectangles of yellow color. These are to investigate failures of the test run. By default, when you upload the test results into report portal, all of them are in a state of to investigate, and then you can mark them as either product bug, automation bug, or some system issue. So this is a Quadrant dashboard. Now you can when you click on the small orange bar like here, you can get into the section of failed tests. You can see that we have some of these. So this is like the method to categorize the test results. And another thing is that we can also see all of the runs which were done. You can see that we here have a nightly for Authorino standalone, which started 6 hours ago, and nightly for Quadrant, which was 7 hours ago. And these all do for basically each day. You can see how many bugs, tests, etc. And when you click on this bug or things to investigate, you can get to this screen, which basically enables you to really easily investigate the error of the test. So you can see like the standard error output and these things. On the top, you can see the trend of failing of these tests. So you can see that sometimes it was green, sometimes it failed. That's all from my side. Yeah, the one thing we report portal also allows us to automatically send an email notification when the tests are ready or when the tests run. we are also looking for an option to produce or to send the results to the Slack, but it's not done yet. We have to look into it. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to go ahead, Alex.
So, I was wondering about what happens, right? The reports of all that. And sorry, I heard names, but I don't know what they mean, to be honest. So I like pushing that to Slack. I don't know if I'd do that, right? On the Kubernetes one at the very least.
No, not Kubernetes, but Reddit internal.
Right.
Yeah, basically, it was like a feature request, or maybe nice to have feature from Craig. So
no,
that
I agree.
We could,
then that's cool.
Yeah.
Because email, I was also wondering, right? That's all probably behind our SSO, right? I would expect.
Yeah.
Right. So pushing that to anything public would be kind of.
No, definitely not public.
So the question is
there-
why? Like, why is this private?
Because we use internal infrastructure. We use internal OpenStack. We use internal instance of report portal, and basically this is I know that the title said upstream testing, but yeah, this is just preparation for productized builds, basically.
Yeah, so like I want to see more upstream testing and test infrastructure.
Yeah, we are working.
Because
last
like
week,
the community can't help you with the testing if it's not accessible to them.
I know. That's we solved this basically a week ago where we announced that our test suite is able to run on a quick start environment, or basically in time. So the next thing we want to implement is to be able to run some subset, or starting with some subset of our test suite on each pull request.
Cool. All right, that'd be nice.
Yeah, so we are definitely working on it. We are progressing, but we have to do some adjustments.
Right, because if we can reproduce the test case like elsewhere, right? Anybody can replace it. Then pushing the report with the instruction on how to reproduce it. Like, I don't think that anybody correct me, but like we don't need everybody to necessarily have access to wherever the failure happened. But like an actionable report, though, that's I think important. So if we have that, then I would all be for it that we push that to, I guess, the Kuadrant mailing list.
We don't have like textual, or please correct me if I'm wrong, Kubo, but I don't think we don't have like textual description of the tests itself in test suite or in the test result, basically. Can you add?
No, you are correct. If you want to find out what's wrong, you need to read through the test error from the test. Yeah,
it's kind of like, you know, that Slack notification you were about to submit. That's a textual notification that can hopefully tell you which test.
It would it's just it would be most probably just simple thing like 5 tests failed and 9 tests is for investigation, and go to this link, go to the report portal to investigate it. That's the way how report portal works.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's almost good enough. Like, if we know the test suite failed, you could just say, hey, well, go rerun the test suite and it'll fill for you too, right? In theory.
I think that one thing we could implement, but not maybe later, is basically scraping commits, or scraping commits of changes in each component, like limiter, quadrant, etc., and correlating it with test failures. Basically, we would get to know.
I wasn't talking about that. I was just saying, like, if you guys are going to be doing alerts, like, we don't have to get the details of the error. We just have to be notified. This test suite
exactly.
failed. Like, and then it's up to the users, like, oh, let me run the test suite to see what failed.
Yeah, exactly. I think that for now it's sufficient to be like alerted, and everything else is on the test reviewer.
Basically, what we have now is what we did the way before for 3-scale, and we just implemented it. Was the fastest way how to do it, and everything from now on is open for discussion. I think if there are some requirements, we can discuss it and look into it more. This was really just the how we did it before, and the simplest solution for us.
I think knowing the test that failed, right? And then if we want to make it so that, like, either don't notify no one outside of Red Hat, I guess. Ideally, you would, but like so that it is reproducible somehow, that there isn't a dependency. And if it's the test name, and then there is a README that says that's how you run that test, you run it locally, and you see it fail locally as well, you have hopefully the same information as you would have in any other report, right?
Yeah, so that would be great, but unfortunately we don't have this yet, and I'm not sure if we ever plan to do it like this, like to have a test case as a code and also as a test textual description of the test.
So, like, the description, like, I don't care. I don't need a textual description. Like,
what Alex meant is just to know which test failed.
I just need to know that a test failed in which test suite.
Yeah.
Like, even if I have to rerun 500 tests, I'm okay with that initially. Hopefully one day you narrow it down for me to, like, these 3 tests out of 500 failed. And that would be
I see.
Yeah, the reproducibility, right? Because otherwise, because indeed, like, the text stuff doesn't really help me, right? It's just avoid needing, because anyways, in your cluster, right? I guess everything gets torn down. Like, the test failing, it's good to know first step, but then the second step is being able to fix it, right?
Definitely. Yeah, I misinterpreted your thought. Yeah, so definitely we want to have reproducibility, and on our environment, basically, we have the environment ready or left in a state as it is for the day, for the whole day. So that's not the best solution, but when we see that something failed, we can hop on it straight.
That's awesome. And it sounds like you guys are heading that way anyways. Like, once you guys have tested, the upstream folks can run, like, we can blow that.
Yeah, this automation was created with, like, downstream builds in mind. Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you for our attention.
Thanks, Philip. And next up, Alex, versioning across components.
Yeah, I think this got more or less resolved. It started with a thread in the Kuadrant Slack channel, started by David. And I guess it's mostly, David, hopefully, if I'm talking nonsense, like, just shut me off, right? But so we currently now have a board. I don't even think if I click the link that you shared, but I guess the important stuff for anybody running a component will probably need to have all versions from now on until Kuadrant V1 to be captured as part of this board. So if you create a new milestone, you probably want to make sure and it's not one that's to be released post V1, then you probably want to make sure that it's reflected on that board. Otherwise, it's not going to be useful. I'm not sure if what I'm saying is making sense. David, is that what I'm saying at least correct to you? If it doesn't make sense to you, then we're screwed.
Makes sense. But we shouldn't restrict people different repos on what milestones they can create. That should depend on the individual repos. Separately, Craig has that project view with that milestone filter for V1, which it sounds like a reasonable thing to have, to see all of the work to hit V1, which will eventually be what gets productized. So yeah, I don't see any other way around it. And it doesn't seem too unreasonable that for every milestone your repo has between now and then, which is roughly November, just make sure to have that in the filter. So I think anyone with permissions can edit the filter in that view. I'll drop a link in the chat here, actually.
I think now the sudden there is an issue with that, isn't there? Like if V08 means one thing for Authorino and means a different thing for Limitador, it's going to still be treated as V0.8.
Yeah, you might need to prefix the milestone with the name of the repo.
Okay, well, that's not the end of the world, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to find a link to that project view. But yeah, that's it. I'd imagine we would check in on that from time to time to see, hey, how are we tracking against V1, something like that.
An issue can be linked to more than one milestone in GitHub, right?
I know that wasn't the case before. Maybe that changed, but when we looked
No.
into that initially, that wasn't feasible.
I don't think you can. I couldn't see any way of doing it. No, just one.
Oh, it replaces the previous one when you change it, even though it
Yeah.
shows okay.
Yeah, we looked at that a while back. If you're anyways, it
I
may
get
have changed, but apparently it hasn't. No, it's only one.
Okay, thanks.
Well, I guess that's it for that one.
Cool. I think you're up again, Alex.
Yeah, right, which leads into the next one. So I don't even remember how this came about. But I know Aaron resurfaced the issue of. I think you were probably surprised by some behavior of the current condition behavior stuff in the Limitador. I guess that's how this happened. But a while back, we started a whole discussion on using cell across Kuadrant in general, and I'd started this this branch in the Limitador for the condition. And I'm going to be very honest, I don't really remember where we left at. I think you had some opinions on that because it overlapped with some of the stuff that Authorino currently supports. But I guess going back to something like the, how would I call it? The actually, if you click the again link, that links to this early this year notes that we captured on that thing. So yeah, the Authorino string modifiers, I guess, but that's in Authorino, right? So and maybe we covered that last time. We could, I think, transform cell stuff into more, let's say, Authorino specific stuff. That would be one way of doing it. For the Limitador more specifically, this raises interesting questions that we started discussing, and we need sort of a path moving forward. Most probably, this would, I think, mean a Limitador 2.0 because, like, for those who remember, we have a lenient mode in Limitador that, because we already sort of fixed a bit the condition parsing logic. So before it used to be left-hand side was the variable, right-hand side was the value. If you would flip the two, like, I don't know, foo bar equals 1, what equals 1 isn't the same condition as 1 equals foo bar. 1 means variable name 1 needs to hold the value foo bar, and the other case is the variable foo bar that needs to hold the value 1, which is probably surprising to a few people. So we fixed all that. We were a little bit more limiting in how stuff could be named and so forth. But moving forward, like cell would require yet more constraints on how to express stuff. So yeah, So I guess just re-raising the whole thing, I could certainly revive this branch that I have. It's been stale for a while, but it's fairly self-contained. And then there is the complexity problem that came as part of that. But I think we discussed that last time as well. And I could build something in during the parsing that won't let you, I don't know, write a 500 line condition effectively in cell, right? As we parse it, we can put limits on the complexity of the expression so that it doesn't become too crazy at runtime. Thoughts? B?
Yeah, I think the point I wanted to raise last time when I mentioned Authorino so-called string modifiers, and it isn't clear from that one bullet point here that you see on the screen, is that Authorino does not have something that competes directly with itself, right? I mean, those are two different things. What Authorino has is it imports from a library a language that allows extracting data from structured documents like JSON documents in particular, right? And as part of that language for extracting data, it also comes with some transformation, data transformation. So while you are extracting data from that document, you can also transform that data, right? And those are the so-called string modifiers. So things, functions that you can apply on that data that you extract, and you can even chain that together in a way that you effectively transform the data to a new desired state that you ultimately use, for example, in a condition, right? In some logics, but also in some other stuff, such as setting headers in the request, this kind of stuff that Authorino also supports, right? So Authorino made the decision long ago of relying on that one language for extracting and modifying data for all those things, for building the conditions, for injecting data in the request, and pretty much anything that involved navigating a JSON structure. Right? And that happens to be very similar to the Rego language, also in the way it navigates JSON structures as well. So it kind of made sense in the past to go with that library for handling data that way. That said, I'm not sure if Cell can be a superset of that language, because Cell also happens to have, a way to navigate those structured documents, right? And more than that. And as far as I know, it also has the feature of defining custom functions, this kind of stuff. So maybe all the so-called string modifiers that we support, either as part of the default library import or the custom ones that we introduce in Authorino's code base itself, could be rewritten as custom Cell functions, maybe, or macros, right? And maybe we could make whatever implementation we have for Cell a superset of Authorino, effectively achieving what you said before, a direct translation from Cell at the level quadrant to the underlying language understood by Authorino.
So, yeah, that's one thing. Then what was the other thing? Oh, yeah, and the other thing, did we reflect this in those notes? Like it's the well-known attributes stuff, I guess. But that was already supported. Maybe not, let's say, all the terms or whatever in Authorino, but that was fun, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Guy.
Yes, I think the well-known attributes, everything that if you go to the RFC, we have a few tables there. Everything that it's marked as auth, supported in auth, did implement in Authorino. So yes.
So there would be more work to do there in, I think there wasn't Shimon at the quadrant layer, because that's, I think, how I would do it. And then you would just get at the limitador layer, you would just get quote unquote data, right? Where it comes from is actually irrelevant. But yeah. So anyways, it's not a 2 days job to make all that work. It's pretty significant chunk of work. I don't think that necessarily we need to do everything. Some sort of comes back to what we want to see included in Quadrant 1.0 that we were hoping to release later this year. But at the very least, sort of accounting for if that's the way we want to move forward, I think we would need, I would be tempted to say we need to make the decision today, and then comes Quadrant V1, have something that's a foundation, right? It doesn't need to be the full-blown cell thing or whatever. But example given right now, you can use identifiers in expressions in conditions in limited door that are not compatible with cell, for instance, right? So we could just clean all that stuff up, if only that, right? So that we know that eventually you have effectively a subset of the features that cell would give you working as part of V1, and then move forward. But the same would be true, obviously, we would need to make sure of the same for Authorino, right? That we at least have a path forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That sounds about right. And if there's another thing that I would like to suggest, at least to investigate, it may sound a detail at this stage, but still relevant, I believe, that if we commit to using cell as the standard for representing all those expressions and language to extract data and so on, we may also want to consider a prefix that identify the presence of a self-expression within the bigger policy, right? Because I'm thinking, obviously we can infer and we can assume that self-expression based on the types itself, right, of the policy API itself, right? Depending on the fields, you can expect it must be a self-expression at the value of a given field. But if I remember correctly, in the auth policy, we also have interpolation. So we have plenty of fields that are typically used as a big string, right, a big text, where we do support interpolation of those expressions. So we also may need, if you want also to, for those to become like self-expressions at the level of the auth policy and translated to something that Authorino understands at the level of the auth config, then anyway, you may need to be able to spot and identify those expressions in the middle of those big texts and do the conversion. Another option being obviously adding support to cell itself in Authorino, right? And just pass that along. Anyway, things to keep in mind and to consider.
Yeah, plus, honestly, I think identifying the language per se, I don't know to what granularity you may want to implement that, but that's actually something I thought, because of the different way we moved already, like it may be interesting, period, right? Because then all of a sudden the language itself, quote unquote, becomes pluggable, right? You would think as, I don't know, cell parentheses, like the expression, right? And then it just becomes a thing that prefixes, that tells you what parser and whatever interpreter to use. Well, actually, let's say what parser. The interpreter doesn't matter too much, I think. But to use for a thing. And I'm not saying that we need to necessarily, like, maybe it'll be cell forever, but at least then that door remains open.
Yeah, that's pretty much what more or less what I had in mind as well. I even thought maybe cell column and then followed by the
Yeah, whatever the thing, and like how to, but being able to discriminate, even if that means only being able to discriminate to one thing today, at least you made it discriminable, if that's a word. Yeah.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
Okay, so I guess we need to look into this Authorino string modifier stuff and see the overlap and see how well that will work. If there are things where we box ourselves in the corner where that would be an issue. So for introducing that in the limitador, the other thing that becomes important Guess what I put there is all values passed to envoy are strings, and I mean values. The good news is that cell has literal for all those types, but we need to account for that. And where it becomes important is the typing information from the well-known attributes, especially as those would be resolved in the wasm shim, going to the host, get the values out of there, and then from there needs to be serialized as a string literal that then can be understood properly on the other side. Again, not a tiny task, not huge either, but it's something that actually I think I may have a branch for that as well. Did I not start like a typing branch at the time based on the well-known attributes? Anyways, I think I've done work around that. And yeah, and I think we can do that. And then Aram and I discussed that a bit. And I think we can, in limited or, we can do it sort of to extend the lenient mode that we have. So the way that I would do it in limited or is by default for limited or 2.0, that would be part of Kuadrant V1, it would be cell, period. But you would be able to enable the lenient mode as a flag. I think right now lenient is always enabled as part of the server. And you get a warning saying, hey, you're using the old syntax for conditions. Please update them, right? I think I even wrote a tool, I think that ports them all for you. So there it would be the same, right? But by default, you wouldn't be able to use the old syntax. So that's why I think it would require a limited or 2.0 so that anybody running limited or 1.x right now, moving to 2.0 would need, like, we would support them, but they would need to do something. And I think it's feasible until proven wrong. I think I probably in a few days could revive my branch that's still for months. So it's probably need to be resolved first. Shouldn't be too hard, famous last words. And then come up with an actual proposal for that. And then look into the Authorino stuff and then decide how we best do that. I think for one, Kuadrant V1, if we could have at the policy level, everything be cell, and then what if we can even for a limited set of things, right? So when I say cell, I mean cell syntax, effectively. And then translated to things for Authorino to understand, I think that would be a good sort of bar to entry. And then how we then evolve that becomes quote unquote an implementation detail. Am I drunk, Guy, saying those things, or what do you think?
No, not at all. I mean, that all sounds reasonable to me.
You're wrong. I'm drunk. Yeah, anyways. Okay, cool. Well, then I guess at some point rather sooner than later, I think we should revive that effort just to make sure we have a good handle on it and what it means for the entire stack. Oops, sorry, I didn't realize you added something. Well, I could have shut up a long while ago.
Nope, not at all, Alex. It's only going to take me 30 seconds. Is there anything else you want to add on that topic before we move on? Okay, just more of an FYI for this group in relation to our CNCF sandbox application. So next review date is June 11th, which is this day next week. Kuadrant is on the board. We're not guaranteed to be included as part of that review, but fingers crossed we can at least get some feedback from the CNCF folks. What we are doing in parallel right now is trying to get a slot in the agenda in the next meeting for the CNCF tag network. We have that slot, but their next meeting isn't scheduled until June 13th, which is 2 days after the review date. And ideally, we could present before that date, so that potentially, if it's positively received, we could get their backing, and it puts us in a stronger position for our application. So long story short, it's possible that there may be a CNCF tag network meeting this coming Thursday, bringing it a week forward, where if that does indeed happen, myself and David Martin will co-present Kuadrant to that group. And yeah, I guess we'll see how things progress then this day next week. or June 11th when it's reviewed. But fingers crossed, we'll hear some good news on that front. All right, so that brings us to the end of the agenda. Is there any other topics that anyone wants to raise in the final 3 minutes? Okay, we can leave it there. Thanks all.